Hey, what is up, my chemistry people? It is Mr. Boylan. What in the heck are we gonna do in this video? We're gonna make qualitative or quantitative predictions about voltaic cells based on half-cell reactions and potentials, and analyze these cells to identify properties of the underlying redox reaction. Whew, that is a doozy. So let us break it down. Numero uno. We are gonna define voltaic cell. What is it? I don't know. That's why I'm watching this video. 2. Identify the anode, cathode, half cells, salt bridge, and voltmeter of a voltaic cell. Sounds like a voltaic cell has got a lot to it. Numero 3. We're gonna explain how the processes of oxidation, losing electrons, and reduction, gaining electrons apply to voltaic cells and where these processes occur in the voltaic cell. Okay, so before we begin talking about voltaic cells, let's first recognize the beauty of electrochemistry. It is the study of redox reactions that produce or require an electric current. Basically, it's the merging of these two great things: electricity, chemistry, electrochemistry. Now, the conversion between chemical energy and electrical energy is carried out in what we call an electrochemical cell. Now, there are actually a couple different types of electrochemical cells, but we're going to focus in this video on the specific type of electrochemical cell in which the transfer or flow of electrons between atoms or ions is a spontaneous one, or it's thermodynamically favored. And in these spontaneous redox reactions, we can harness that flow of electrons to produce an electrical current if we separate the oxidation and reduction half reactions into half cells. Okay, so let's take a look at this beauty of a video that we're about to watch. This redox reaction is the reaction between solid zinc and copper ion in a copper solution. When we mix the two, notice that the reaction spontaneously occurs. The zinc replaces the copper in solution, and the copper gets pulled out of solution. However, there's no real way for us to harness the flow of electrons as they move from zinc to copper. So, what we need to do is separate those two half reactions, the oxidation half reaction and the reduction half reaction, into their own what we call half cells. So as you take a look at the video on your screen here, we have two half cells where we've separated the zinc and the copper from one another, but they're connected by an external wire. On the one side, we have our oxidation half cell, in this case, zinc. It will still lose its electrons, but now they're gonna flow through an external wire, and we can then use that flow of electrons to measure volts, amps, or to power things like a light bulb. Or on the other hand, we have our copper cathode half cell where reduction takes place. Again though, it's the separation of these two half cells that allows us to harness that flow of electrons. Essentially, what we do is the electron flow through a wire along with the ion flow through a solution creates an electrical circuit, which we use to power our lives. Now, these spontaneous or thermodynamically favorable redox reactions take place in what we call a voltaic cell, which is just one type of electrochemical cell. Now, just to confuse you, these are also known as galvanic cells, but recognize that those two terms can be used interchangeably. Now, the last thing we need to do is just think about some of the different parts of a voltaic cell. The first one is the anode, which is just the electrode or metal conductor where oxidation occurs. Okay, so as we take a closer look at the oxidation half cell, or the anode, in this case zinc, it is in a solution of zinc nitrate. And notice that for every one zinc, there are two nitrate ions. As the zinc is oxidized, it loses two electrons. Boom! Zinc is oxidized, losing two electrons. Notice the cation is smaller than the neutral zinc atom. A great mnemonic to remember the fact that oxidation occurs at the anode is anox. Anode is oxidized. Anox. And just a couple things to keep in mind in addition to the fact that oxidation occurs at the anode. One, you need to recognize that anions, or negative ions, are attracted to the anode. And 2, it will lose mass as the redox reaction progresses. Another great mnemonic, anorexic anode. The anode's gonna lose mass. It's gonna get skinny. As a side note, anorexia is a very serious affliction. And if you or someone you know suffers from anorexia, talk to someone, get some help. Okay, second part of a voltaic cell we need to be familiar with is what's called the cathode. It is the electrode or metal conductor where reduction occurs. It's our other half cell. Reduction occurs at the cathode. Redcat, a great mnemonic device. Redcat. Once those electrons are lost by the zinc, they travel through the external wire to the cathode. Here we can measure, using a voltmeter, what the voltage is for the cell. If we take a closer look at the reduction half reaction, or our cathode, in this case copper, notice our copper is submerged in a solution of copper nitrate, and as those copper ions in solution gain the electrons that were lost by zinc, they plate onto the copper cathode, causing it to get fatter. Fat cat! Couple of things to keep in mind about what happens at the cathode. 1. Cations are attracted to the cathode, positive ions. 2. It will gain mass as the redox reaction progresses. Cathode gets fat. Cat fat. Cat fat. You also need to recognize that the Voltaic cell requires a salt bridge in order to complete the circuit and maintain charge balance. Now, the salt bridge can contain any number of salts, but generally we're looking for something that's highly soluble, and often we'll use potassium nitrate, which is a really soluble salt. Okay, now recognize you're also going to have a voltmeter as part of your Voltaic cell. It's just going to measure the overall reaction or cell potential, and you'll see this E sub cell, and will always be positive for a correctly constructed Voltaic cell. And then lastly, just remember that in a redox reaction, electrons will flow from the anode to the cathode. So fat cat again, from anode to cathode. Fat cat. Okay, and that's it for this video. Be sure to check out the references and the links on the website so you can use some of those amazing simulations on your own. And we're done.